Good afternoon. Welcome to All About Animals. I'm Sherry Gradator, and this afternoon we are at Animal Care and Control of Lake County. And I say that because I know some of you watching are not Lake County residents, but your own local Animal Care and Control certainly is there for you. My guest today is Robin Van Sickle. I did that right, didn't I?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm not great at that. And we are here kind of to dispel the myth of the ugly dog catcher, but to do a lot more, which is let people know the scope of the services that Animal Care and Control provides. And I mean, it's just amazing. So with that, I'm going to turn to you and I'm going to say, Robin, outside of being called out for stray dogs and cats and picking them up, which is in and of itself a busy job, what else do you guys do?
Well, we do primarily work with dogs and cats, but we do also do a lot of things outside of just bringing in and impounding animals. We do a lot of education efforts. We do a lot of community work with both police departments, community centers, park districts, but residents and youth groups as well, making sure that animals are really well cared for. They understand the requirements of owning a pet and that they stay in compliance with all of the regulations also surrounding owning a pet. So one of the things that we do is we provide a lost and found network. We want to make sure that pets go back to their owners. We don't want to take in their animal. We don't want to turn them over to the adoption centers. So we want to make sure that any cat or dog or bird or turtle that is lost, people do report that to us.
Sure.
And if somebody finds one, report that to us as well, because somebody is going to be looking for that animal, and somebody is also making exhaustive efforts trying to return that animal to their family as well. So we have a computer system that does track all of the information that is called in to us, but we also have a website where pictures or information can be posted, and people can look at that on the website to see if their animal has been found or if an animal is missing matching that description. That is a new effort that we've provided, and we've had such great results with it.
That's a terrific thing to do.
It is.
Yeah.
One of the best ways to get an animal back home is to have it microchipped, and that is a service that we provide here. Microchips are a fantastic way to track an animal to where it belongs, based on information that's attached to the microchip. So there's a phone number, there's an address, there's an owner. You can even provide alternate contacts attached to that microchip that's housed through either the microchip company, through the animal hospital, or through ourselves.
And yeah, I'm going to stop you for a minute because the fallacy in information that we hear all the time is that they're putting this great big thing in the dog or the cat and it's horribly painful and it's tantamount to surgery. You want to dispel the myth?
Oh, absolutely. It is no worse than a typical vaccination. So if your animal is okay getting vaccinations, it's going to be okay getting a microchip. We do see some of the smaller dogs like Chihuahuas or even Yorkies that do tend to react to the implant of the microchip, but it's there permanently and it's a safeguard to making sure pets go home. They don't get put into rescue groups or animal shelters, potentially euthanized or adopted into another family. We do provide that service here every day for $15, and it's a lifelong guarantee that your pet will be returned.
It's a little thing the size of a grain of rice.
It sure is.
And it's injected with a syringe.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not travel through the body. It doesn't break loose and cause horrible damage to the animal. And it stays where it's put. And isn't it true now that most police departments, pounds, shelters, anybody who has contact with strays has some sort of a reader?
Correct. In fact, it's a state law that every animal shelter and animal control facility scan an animal that is being brought into their facility for the presence of a microchip. And we do support different municipalities within Lake County in providing them with scanners that we've had here when we've updated our own. So we do want to make sure that if somebody finds an animal, whether it be a resident or a police department, that they are scanning or making an effort to have that animal scanned for the microchip.
And let me jump in and say, if you have an animal that's chipped and you move, please, please, please update the information. Call whoever it is that is your registering company, whether it is a veterinarian, whether it is a company, and give them new information so that you will get your animal back. Because I know
That's the biggest problem that we see is people move or they change their phone numbers and that information is not updated. You know, they remember to change their own addresses with their billing companies and maybe with their animal hospital, but they forget.
Yeah, the driver's license gets changed, the credit cards get changed.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks of the microchip because once it's there, it's put it in and forget about it.
Right.
And it just becomes too easy to forget about it.
Right, right. So in addition to the microchips that we do offer here, we do also offer low-cost vaccinations to Lake County residents. All Lake County residents are able to come to one of our off-site clinics. We collaborate with police departments and park districts to make sure that pet owners can get their animals vaccinated at a low cost. We understand that owning a pet is very expensive, but we want to make sure that they're healthy and that they're vaccinated and that they are prevented against the spread of rabies, the disease that is deadly. Rabies is here in Lake County, and we want to make sure that pets and people are protected against rabies. So our vaccination clinics that are offered to all Lake County residents are usually offered between March and October. They're typically done outside or at a community center or at a police department.
Or even at a farmer's market.
At a farmer's market, we've certainly done those.
Yes, you have.
And it's a cost-effective way for people to see what we do, see that we're friendly people and that we want to make sure pets are cared for.
And I think that's the biggest myth, and that people seem to think that animal wardens are there to pick up their animals and take them away. And that really isn't the case, even in cases where animals are not being treated in the best possible way.
Correct.
You guys do education, don't you?
We do provide education programs, not only to youth groups and school districts, but also to police departments. We want to make sure that children know how to approach a dog or how to care for their animal. We also want to make sure that that they know how to not get themselves bit. So that's a big part of our prevention efforts in animal bites. But with respect to cruelty and making sure animals are cared for, we do want police departments also to recognize that in cases of domestic violence, animals could be part of that domestic violence. There's a direct correlation there. So we do have a couple animal control officers that do provide programs to police departments on how to recognize and also how to report and work with their state's attorney on how to prosecute those cases when they see that animals were being either abused or neglected.
Yeah, and you know, one other service which one of my neighbors availed herself of a couple of years ago was that she had a bat in her house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you say rabies is in Lake County, one of the places that you find it in Lake County is in bats.
Correct.
Yes.
Well, bats have been found to be rabid in Lake County for as long as I can remember. This year alone, we had 3 bats that came back positive for rabies. Cats and dogs, all other mammals can contract rabies. We have not seen that here in Lake County for many years. In Illinois, the last case of a rabies positive cat was in 1996 and a dog in 1994. So it goes to show that vaccination efforts and prevention efforts really go towards preventing the spread of rabies.
Yeah.
But bats are certainly scary. They're certainly cool, but that's not something that you want to come into contact with, as you could be possibly at risk for getting rabies.
And does animal control still help people who have bats in their homes?
We will come out. Anytime, day or night, 2 o'clock in the morning when they're most active, we will come out to the house and we will remove that bat. We will send it in for testing if there's a possible exposure, just to make sure that there's no possible case of rabies.
So basically the animals that can transmit that are not killed by rabies are 2. It's bats and skunks, am I correct?
Skunks are also the terrestrial carrier of rabies, and that is one of the indicator animals that the state is watching. Skunks do carry rabies more prevalently than other terrestrial animals, and so cats and dogs would come into contact with that, and that is where people would be at risk for getting it into their families and their home.
And you know, outside of that, I've seen over the years, I've seen kids through an excess of kindness approach an injured raccoon, for example, or a raccoon with distemper that's staggering down the street.
Right.
And pick that animal up and get bitten. And bottom line is, when a child is bitten by a wild animal, that animal is put to death immediately, is it not?
If that animal is found and we know that that animal was involved in the bite incident, yes. The animal is euthanized and the rabies specimen is collected and sent to the state lab for testing.
Which is to protect all of us and our pets.
Correct.
And our pets. I don't like to think of anything being killed. However, I'd rather have positive knowledge that the animal that bit my child was not rabid.
Right.
So you do bats in the house. You go out on cruelty cases.
We go out on cruelty cases. We go out on. We also go out on injured animals. So if we find an animal that's injured, whether it's wild or domestic, we will either go out ourselves or we will assist a police department in taking that injured animal in and making sure that it's treated immediately and not suffering. And that goes to, we've been out on coyote, we've been out on fox, we've been out on swan. We also go out on, really anything, and once that animal is collected, we'll work with either an animal hospital or with a wildlife center to make sure that it's either treated or humanely euthanized based on the injuries.
The severity of the injuries.
Right.
So, basically to reiterate, and that really is why we're here, you're not the bad guys.
We're not.
You're out trying to teach people how to care. We
do everything that we can to either return an animal back to its home, whether that be a family or wildlife, and whatever animal can't be returned, either back to its family or again to wildlife. We do work with many, many different rescue groups. Unfortunately, we don't do adoptions here at our facility. We don't have the means or the space, the staffing, but we do network with many different rescue groups, making sure that those animals are transferred to them, and at that point they make the efforts in getting those animals placed up for adoption and placed into their forever homes.
And we are just about out of time. Would you give people a phone number they can call if they need help?
Oh,
or
absolutely.
if they need information?
Sure. Any animal care and control related issues for Lake County, you can contact our phone number at 847-377-4700. You can also go to our website, which is through the Lake County Health Department, and just look up animal care and control, and you'll find us there, as well as a list of all of the resources and programs that we do provide, including our spay-neuter program.
And it's terrific. Spray, neuter, vaccinations, microchip ID,
education programs,
help with injured. The scope is terrific. It is, and there are a bunch of people who choose to do this not because they don't like animals, but because they want to make the world better for the animals. And even if you talk about the dog catcher, wouldn't you prefer having your dog picked up and taken to a safe place until you can get it, to having it out in the street potentially being hit by a car?
Right.
That's the bottom line. You do a terrific job. I really do admire you, and I want to thank you for coming on with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Sherry.